Yeah, welcome everyone. Uh, this is Emotional First Aid for Caregivers, offered by Zen Caregiving Project. And I am happy to see you all. We may have a couple more folks join us as we get started, but I want to honor everyone's time since we just have 45 minutes scheduled, and we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Mary Doan, and I'm the Senior Instructor of Education Programs here at Zen Caregiving Project. I'm sitting in today for my colleague, Roy Reamer, who's our Executive Director, and he was originally scheduled to offer this session, so you may have seen his name on the website when you first registered, or if you registered more recently, you would have seen mine. But if you were expecting to see Roy, I'm here. On his behalf. He's not ill or anything. He just couldn't be here today. So I'm glad to be here with you all. Just briefly, I began my journey with what was then Zen Hospice Project. Back in 2005, I came to work as a volunteer bedside caregiver, taking our volunteer training. And in the years since then, I really just haven't left. I've done a variety of things as a volunteer, as a staff member, and that's where I am today. And just continue to feel really privileged to be part of our small team and to serve our mission in a variety of roles over the past 16 years now. I also want to share with you that I'm a family caregiver myself. I have an elder mother and I have a young adult daughter, both of whom are care recipients in different ways. So I offer the practices that we'll do today from my own personal experience as well as my professional experience. So I trust these orientations of presence, turning towards suffering, grounding, self-care, compassion, self-compassion, all of these things are very personal for me as well. Our time together today, I just want to give you a brief overview. I'll talk about mindfulness, just give a brief introduction. That's kind of standard for us, and we'll do a short meditation. Then we'll talk a little bit about the wisdom of the body, turning towards the body as a mediator for our strong emotions, how we can use that to support us when we do experience strong or difficult emotions. I'll lead us through, I'll introduce a practical exercise that you can kind of take with you and hopefully use and rely on your own, really at any time. And we'll do another brief practice, and then before we close, there'll be some time for comments or questions. And as we go along, if you'd like to use that chat feature to enter questions, and we'll address them at the end. And Lev is here to keep track of them if I lose track. If we don't get to all the questions and comments by 1:15, I'm happy to stay an extra few minutes if need be. So we can do that together. And then finally, just a reminder about Zen Caregiving Project, that we are a small nonprofit. We're based in San Francisco. And if you would like to learn more about anything that you hear here today, please consider joining us for one of our Mindful Caregiver Education courses, getting on our mailing list, making a donation to the work we do, and all of those things you can find out about at our website, which is zencaregiving.org. So let me honor this kind of current moment that we're in. So again, the title of this session today is Emotional First Aid for Caregivers. But as I was contemplating that, it became clear to me almost immediately that through this past year and really up to this moment, we all have needed, I think it's fair to say, we all have needed some emotional first aid at some time, right? So whether you're a caregiver or not, getting through this time of global pandemic and social unrest and political tensions and all of the things certainly across the United States, but around the globe, that we've been challenged by. So caregivers in particular, whether you're a clinician or a family caregiver, likely dealing with an added layer, right, of this kind of immense uncertainty, often overwhelming experience of loss, and that it may not feel like you've had adequate time and space, to process and honor all that you're holding. So one of the core tenets of our approach is the importance of self-care, right? And this is something that's easy to say and recognize the importance of, but also easy to kind of gloss over and not really prioritize. Or maybe to put self-care in the category of something like a foot massage, right? Or an extra glass of wine. And we don't knock those things if they work for you, but to tend to our real emotions, right? Our messy, uncomfortable, real emotions, and turn towards them, honor our experience, is the kind of deep self-care that we want to emphasize. So stepping back and just saying for a moment about mindfulness, offering an introduction and a kind of working definition to mindfulness. And for some of you who have been with us before in these sessions, or because of your own work and practice, this is familiar to you. So if it feels like you know this already, the invitation is to be in our beginner's mind, right? And receive what's here fresh in this moment, and let it support you and hopefully support all of us. So as a working definition for mindfulness, we like this one, that it's paying attention to the present moment on purpose and without judgment. So on purpose, with mindfulness, we can notice when we become distracted, and we can return our attention to where we want it to be. We can choose where we're placing our attention. This kind of distraction is natural. It's to be expected. Our minds are busy, our minds are full. We have all kinds of pressures. We have all kinds of stimuli in our 21st century lives. So we're very naturally distracted. But again, with the skill of mindfulness, we can notice when that distraction occurs and we can return our attention. So we're paying attention on purpose. And then without judgment, that we bring a measure of kindness to ourselves and to our experience, so that we don't judge ourselves in those moments when we notice that we're distracted and we are redirecting our attention, because as we just said, that's going to happen very naturally, whoever we are, that it's no big deal when this occurs. And also not judging the things that we notice so much, whether our thoughts, our feelings, our sensations, our experiences are good or bad, right? That we're just meeting them as they are without judgment. And we're doing this in the present moment. So briefly, benefits of mindfulness, right? A calm mind, focused attention, and increased awareness. Calm mind, focused attention, increased awareness. 3 kind of core benefits of mindfulness. So with that, let's do a little mindfulness practice together and see how that feels, okay? So we'll practice some mindful awareness. And we'll use the breath as the focus of our attention. This is probably the most common and traditional. But I want to say before we start that you always have an option. We always have options when we practice, right? And that it's important in the spirit of the self-care I was talking about before to practice in a way that is safe for us. So for some of us, it may not be appropriate to use the breath as the object of our attention. If this is true for you, it's no big deal. And you can use the points of contact of your body and the seat or cushion that's supporting you. And you can just keep your attention there rather than the breath if you prefer. But as I walk us through the practice, I'll be speaking about the breath. Okay. One of the benefits of using the body in this way, whether it's the breath or other awareness of the body, is that the body can only be, is always in the present moment, right? So as we see when we practice, the mind can be in the past and in the future, and frequently is moving around very quickly in all kinds of places other than right here, right now. But the body and the breath are always right here, right now. So we use them to support our attention in that way. Yeah, they're great teachers for us, often referred to as anchors or even refuge. Yeah. So let's give it a try. So I invite you to find a comfortable meditation position. So wherever you are, sitting, standing, or lying down. And these are 3 of the 4 traditional, equally valid postures for meditation, right? Sitting, reclining, or lying down, walking, or standing. Right? So wherever you are, however you're seated, finding a comfortable position. And if it is appropriate for you, allowing your eyes to close. If you're keeping your eyes open, just let your gaze lower, cast down to your lap or to the floor. And bring some attention to the work of gravity. So I mentioned the points of contact, just feeling the pull, if you will, of gravity, the solidity, the weight of your body resting wherever you're seated right now, and feeling the support of whatever is beneath you. And maybe noticing where your body is resting. So the backs of the legs, the sits bones, maybe the lower back, maybe the full length of the back, depending on how you've arranged yourself. And noticing the placement of your hands, wherever they are, but that there's a point of contact there as well, and some weight where your hands are resting. And as we go through this brief practice, do your best to keep your body as still as possible. So we know there's a link, a still body supports a still mind. Yeah, so if you need to move, obviously if you're in pain or uncomfortable, but if it just feels like you kind of need to make a slight adjustment because your mind is agitated, see if you can make the commitment to keep the body still. So from here, let's take a series of long, deep cleansing breaths together. So these are in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you do this, The invitation is to have the breath be as full and deep as possible. So really kind of drinking in the inhalation, and maybe even finding the full capacity of the lungs and the abdomen to lift and expand and hold breath. And then likewise, as you exhale through the mouth, fully, really releasing all of that breath and seeing if you can get just a little more air out than you're used to. So not straining, not hurting ourselves, but just a little bit of effort for the breath to be as full and deep as possible. And do this a couple, 2 or 3 times, in through the nose, out through the mouth, just as fully as you can. And with those exhalations, imagine that anything that you are holding, tension in the body, ideas in the mind that maybe you don't really need, that those could be released along with that exhalation. Just letting go a little bit more each time you exhale. And then once you've taken at least 3 of those deep, intentional breaths, then go ahead and release any effort with the breath or manipulation of it, and just let the breath be wherever it is in your body right now, whatever depth, whatever pace. But pay attention to the sensations of breathing. So maybe noticing around the nostrils, the movement of the air into and back out from the nose. Maybe you can sense the upper chest gently rising and settling back down with the rhythm of the breath. Just exploring, what does it feel like to breathe in and breathe out? So letting the breath be a place of rest from any thoughts that arise. So when you notice a thought distracting you, with kindness as much as possible, with it's no big deal, returning the attention to the sensations of the breath. It's just that simple. And that there's no wrong way to do this. Just exploring, noticing, and returning the attention, redirecting the attention to the breath anytime that's needed. So for just another 1.5 or 2 minutes here, I'm gonna be quiet and we'll breathe together, and I will ring the bell to signal the end of the meditation practice. So just breathing together. So letting your eyes open, raising your gaze. And if you need to just make any small movements or stretches coming out of a short practice. So I want to say a little bit about going to the body when strong emotions arise. Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is honoring the experience of many caregivers. And often caregivers feel like we don't have time for strong emotions, right? There's too much to do. Or that if we make space for our own emotions, our own experience, that this is somehow selfish, right? It means that we're caring less about our care recipient, the ones that we are focused on. And there might also be a fear that we're holding so much sadness, grief, anticipatory grief, our own fear, that there's resistance to letting these things surface. Yeah. We might also, as caregivers, feel that it's our job to be strong, right? We need to be modeling some kind of stoicism, right, for our care recipient. We don't want to show emotion because we want them to feel that they too can be strong, right? But it's in our experience, in my personal experience and belief, it's healthiest to be really honest with ourselves about our present moment experience, right? To meet what's true when it's true. So this is one way that we can understand mindfulness, being really honest with ourselves about what it's like right now, and to acknowledge what's really happening. And sometimes this means being very honest also with those around us, right? So it can be helpful to maybe just take a breath or two and speak it aloud to others around us. You could say, in this moment, I'm experiencing some fear, or I'm feeling really sad about the way things are going for you. To say that out loud to our care recipient. And when we choose to do this, it can open the way for a really authentic kind of conversation. It can lend permission. I don't mind revealing my age by saying that I grew up watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That may be true for some others of you also, but whether you watched him or not as a child, I want to turn for a moment and quote Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, who supports us in this practice. He says, anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. When we can talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, and the people that we trust with that important talk can help us know that we're not alone. So Fred Rogers is speaking to children, but I receive him just as deeply as an adult. Yeah. Anything that's mentionable can be more manageable. So for many of us, it feels counterintuitive. Yeah. But experience shows us that this turning towards or going directly into strong emotions is the healthiest thing to do. And that using the skills of mindfulness, paying attention to our direct experience of an emotion, helps to build our capacity to be with difficulty and suffering. Right? And we know that we don't get through a human life, escaping all difficulty or any suffering. Common fear is that if we open to the strong feelings that we're experiencing, that they're bottomless. We'll simply be angry or heartbroken forever. But again, what is true is that if we let an emotion express itself, it does dissipate more quickly. Yeah. And often the reasons that emotions seem to stick around is that we get caught in the thoughts that feed or contribute to our emotional experience, and it repeats itself. So it's not actually unending, but it's a loop or a cycle, yeah, that continues. When we can go to the body, to the physical sensations of an emotion, and release the story a bit or completely, we can disrupt that cycle of the negative thoughts and let the emotion kind of play itself out. So another quote to share, getting at this from a different wisdom tradition, from a Tibetan Buddhist teacher, Mingyur Rinpoche, who says, "This awareness of emotion is like the sun which eliminates darkness. When you are aware of the emotion, it becomes powerless." So that's easy to say. That's not something that's going to happen all at once, but this contributing to the spirit of turning towards naming, being with, allowing. Yeah. So there's one practice that we teach and offer a lot. I personally use it. It feels like it's easy to remember. And it's the STOP practice, STOP, but in this case, it's an acronym. So it's stop, take a breath, observe, and proceed. And we can do this anytime, right? When a large emotion arises. It works with small emotions too, but so that you just take a pause, you stop for a moment for 10 seconds, and this doesn't mean that you're disengaging with what you're doing or leaving the room or leaving a person, but you just take an internal pause. Yeah. And you can do this without anyone else even necessarily being aware. You take a breath, you center yourself, you kind of come back to your body. You feel the breath, as we did in that short practice, all the way in, all the way out. Yeah. And you can maybe say to yourself, I'm breathing. Yeah, just really letting the physical body kind of ground your awareness. Observing your environment, right? Just bringing those skills of mindfulness and training the attention on where am I? What's actually happening right now? Yeah, yeah. I'm in the doctor's office waiting room. It's kind of stuffy in here. I'm impatient, or whatever it is. I'm driving, I'm in traffic. Someone just cut me off. But this just kind of being simple, clear, fully in the moment, naming the experience, just observing what's happening right now. And then from there, proceeding, right? You have the power to choose how you proceed, how you keep going in the moment. Yeah, you've refreshed, hopefully reoriented your awareness, maybe choosing a little bit more, being responsive rather than reactive, and you can continue on whatever you're doing. So just that simple stop practice. So giving you that tool, I'd like to offer one more meditation and seeing if we can work with this awareness of, awareness of a strong emotion. Yeah, and see how that feels. So I'm going to ask you in this practice to think of a recent situation that really challenged you or caused you some struggle. And ask you to choose something if you want to participate. Pardon me, I'm so sorry. Something that is real, but that's workable. Real but workable, as we say. So not to overwhelm yourself, but something that you can work with in just a few minutes of practice. Yeah. So I invite you to turn inward again, allow the eyes to close if you'd like. Settle into the body. Just take a breath. And then consider a recent situation that brought up a powerful emotion for you, a real struggle or a challenge. And remember that you're in control, choosing something that's workable. If you don't want to engage with this, you just want to listen to my voice, of course, that is also completely within your choice. But if you're participating in the practice, as you recall the situation, just let whatever emotions are there be there and see if you can name them. Is there sadness? Was there a lot of anger, frustration, or anxiety? Just naming the emotional experience and trying to keep your attention on it. And then stepping back to observe your process with this emotion present. So, does the presence of this strong emotion impact the sensations of your body? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but exploring that for a moment. Checking in with the belly or the chest. And just letting yourself stay with this experience of a physical expression of a strong emotion. Maybe the heart beats faster. And letting yourself stay for another breath or two. Just being curious, what's this like in the body? Releasing, if you can, the story of the emotion and staying with the physical experience of it. And then release that and just feel your feet in contact with the floor or wherever they are. Notice your breath. Just feel your breath. The inhale and the exhale. Notice any sounds in the space around you. Can you experience the sounds without a story? And then the breath. Always the rhythm of the breath in the body. All right, thank you. And again, letting the eyes open if you closed them, lifting the gaze. Yeah. So We have a few more minutes together, and I am happy to answer questions if I can, if anything comes up for you, or I'd love to hear any reflections on the practices that we did or things that I said. Yeah, and I'm now just looking at everyone here, so it's nice to see some familiar names and faces and some unfamiliar names and faces. Yeah, thank you all for being here. So please just wave your hand or raise your electronic hand. We have a few minutes for some discussion together. Yes, Belle, I see you. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Um, well, I've attended a number of these sessions, and I feel I've come to enjoy the meditation part, especially. But I think today was especially difficult. The first one, because just before this session, I got a call from my daughter who lives in New York that her headaches are back. She started getting these recurring headaches she normally gets migraine, but this one is just, really just intense for her. So I really tried my best during the first meditation to keep my mind focused, but I really had her in my head the whole time. Uh, the second meditation, um, I felt calmer, but of course I was thinking about what those emotions were that triggers me. And of course I don't think it'll ever go away, but it's really, I care for my mom. She has dementia and she had a stroke a few months ago. And so, but my mom and I, it's more of, we just have this emotional battle all the time, but whenever she needs something, it's me who is always in front of her. But I always have to hold myself together whenever she cites negative things that for some reason she still carries with her. Just things like she feels I'm not doing a good job, or I'm misusing her money, which to me, I feel always I'm very careful, but I take it to heart that I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. So I always get discombobulated every time that comes out of her mouth, and I try to hold myself and not react to it. And I just tell myself that it's dementia, it's the stroke, it's the, but it's hard. Um, I think I'm working towards just being, I mean, to me, the whole emotion for me is just this whole physical gesture of bringing myself together. I think that's what it is. I always try to collect myself and be focused, and just put her in front of me, and she becomes the focus instead of me becoming the focus whenever I'm triggered by um, what she likes to say.
Mm. Thank you for sharing all that. Yeah, I hear and I feel the complexity and all that you're holding and trying to respond to. Yeah, in your tender heart. And I would just say to sort of validate and mirror back to you that these caregiving relationships, especially family caregiving relationships, they're complicated. Yeah, we have all the emotions, responsibilities, aspirations of caregiving, and we have these lifelong dynamics and um, habits of interaction, and maybe wounds and all of that. And it's hard territory. Yeah, it's hard territory. So I think staying close to your personal experience, tending to it, honoring it, yeah, as best you can as you go through that's a lot. Yeah, so I'm glad you're here. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Anyone else? Love to hear from other voices if anyone would like to ask or share.
I'm here in Germany. I attend you. Yeah, so greetings from Germany. I would like to know, when you do meditation and you trigger bad feelings, make it sense to go out of the meditation or to just keep going, to hold the feeling, to be aware of it. If you feel like it's getting too strong and it's like soaking you down or bringing you down, and when is it time to decide I need to stop it?
Thank
you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Fantastic. Yes, and I hear the answer to your question in your question. So that this is something, there isn't one answer for every person, right? And one of the benefits of mindfulness and that increasing our awareness is recognizing when we are moving towards that sort of state of overwhelm where we might shut down, where really a practice is too much for us in this moment to continue, that we can maybe see when we're approaching that threshold before we actually get there. So it's a practice. It's a matter of sort of experimentation and maybe trial and error, if you will. That's the first thing I would say. But then absolutely to care for ourselves, right? Even if there's like, this is a good practice, this is good for me, I want to get better at this. Well, it's kind of like, if you think of the metaphor of lifting weights at the gym, you know, you want to be able to power lift 350 pounds, but you don't start out lifting 350 pounds, right? Because you would injure yourself. So you start small and you build your tolerance and your capacity. So the same way with practices that open us to intense experience or invite presence with our intense emotions, that we modulate as we need to, yeah, so that we can be brave, hopefully courageous and willing to be present, but we also don't harm ourselves. Yeah, and we're the ones who know where that boundary is. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is that boundary isn't always in the same place, right? It shifts. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, everybody. That's good to be part of this group. And I just want to say to the first question, the speaker, I didn't catch your name, I'm sorry, but I completely relate to the situation you're in, sandwiched between parent and child, as you are, Mary. But my comment is really more of a comment that maybe you can speak to, is the fact that caring doesn't happen in a bubble. And so often one's coming in on any particular day or moment, and there's other stuff going on that's charging one up, and then you're coming into the situation where you have to stay calm, be present. Yeah, just that it doesn't happen in a bubble. It's really just more a comment, I suppose.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, I I feel you, as the phrase goes, right? And that I feel that too. Yeah, this is absolutely true. And I would just say, by way of recognizing or echoing back, that the more we can just kind of recognize that's true, all that we're carrying from everything else about our lives into a caregiving relationship, to just be kind with ourselves, to care for ourselves as best we can, because we're holding so much, right? We're caregivers, but we're not only caregivers. We're human beings, you know, trying to live in this world. So it's a lot. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I see we're a few minutes past time. I want to make space if there are any others, but I also want to, if anyone needs to go, by all means, thank you for being here. And I hope that our paths cross again, and please be in touch. Check out our website, and yeah, may you all be safe and well.